Hello and welcome in everybody to Tabletop Titans. My name is Adrian and today we're going to be talking all about 3D printing and how to get started. It's going to be a very informative session. I've been printing for a few years now actually and have made lots of mistakes. I've learned lots of things and I have lots of opinions about what I would do if I started it all over today. So that's going to be the subject for the next, hour or so. Welcome in everybody. Great seeing everyone in chat. Hello, Monarchier 1. We've got Doc Mel. We've got Sam, Methuselah, Saul, TV Rock, Fugs, Sharon, Doom Boogie, Vought, Sam, T, Willow, Nurgle Matthew, Esploid. Amazing. What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining me live. Of course, we are going to be doing a giveaway of a 3D printer during today's episode, so stay tuned for ways to kind of enter into that, and it's going to be fun. Of course, this is all kind of made possible by HeyGears, so full disclosure, they are the ones that are donating the printer to be given out in the giveaway. Having said that, though, we are going to be talking about things beyond HeyGears. This isn't just like, oh, look at HeyGears and how great they are. It's about discussing like the tools, what's out there, what's worth it, what maybe you can save some money on, and also just talking about general tips and tools and things like that. So yeah, just wanted to put that out up front. We have a video talking about my experience with their new line of machines, which they did send to us ahead to review. Brian Poland had tried them a few months ago actually and loved them, and he was one who was like, oh, 3D printing will never work, blah, 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 and then absolutely loved them. And then unrelated, HeyGears was like, hey, you want to make a video? We'd love to send you a thing to check out. And we said, sure, why not? Like, I was curious. Because Brian obviously loves it, but I really wanted to try it firsthand. I think if you know me, I am always allergic to the statement, it's magic, and it just works, right? So mic's a bit low, I'll turn it up a bit. I'm always allergic to when people just say, oh, like this thing is hobby magic, and this is this magic. I'm always very skeptical. So it's been nice to actually test it out. So there's a full video that kind of walks through all that. And this is kind of just a bonus, the chance to have more of a discussion with everyone live. So it was great to see everyone there. Of course, let me know if you have questions, if you have suggestions for 3D printing. I like to make these things make these things more of a discussion rather than a lecture. And of course, since it's just me today hosting, I could definitely use the help. All right, I want to first of all thank some very kind people. First of all, Michael Gross for becoming a captain. Welcome to Captainhood. Make sure to use all those amazing memberships, including our Tuesday games, which you can vote on exactly what we play and how. The members definitely created a doozy for Brian and Bridger tonight. I want to thank Vought for gifting a Tabletop Titans membership, so thank you, Vought. Really, greatly appreciate that. Thank you very much. And thank you, Evan Tumanello, as always, for gifting another Tabletop Titans membership. Very much appreciate it. And welcome in Robert and Kyle to memberships. Make sure you use that extra content while you can. Yeah, we don't talk about magic here. T, let me know if the volume is better here. I have turned it up. And yeah, so questions. How do we enter the giveaway? We will be doing the giveaway later on, so for now, just hang out in the chat, and I'll give you guys instructions as we get on through. So welcome, hang on out, welcome. Yeah, magic is definitely heresy. Yeah, let me know also like what your personal experience is with 3D printing. We see SB Lloyd. I've always squirrely about changing FEP film, but recently had to change mine. It was a lot less stressful than I thought it would be. Yeah, I think a lot of these things, there's a lot of hidden knowledge or things that feel kind of dubious and scary, and then once you do it, you're like, okay, it's very physical, it's very analog, but there's just lots of things to sort of worry about as your first time through, right? Tonight's not Death Card versus Drew Carey. It's going to be Custodes versus World Eaters, which is famously two Bridger armies. And Devlin talking about with traditional metal casting and how the program handles undercutting. Yeah, so we'll talk a bit about supports and how we kind of do those. I'll talk specifically about the HeyGears support, what I like and what maybe I like less about it a little bit later on. So with that, let's dive on in and talk about it. I have lots of things that I mentioned. So let's do this thing. We're talking about 3D printing. And first of all, I want to kind of talk about my priorities when thinking, like when we're talking about today, right? So if you are an experienced 3D printer, you have lots of opinions, you know what you like, you know what you don't like. This information will still be useful. You might be curious about this new machine, but again, this is largely for people who are looking at getting into 3D printing, people who are beginners. So these are the kind of metrics that I'm using. They might not always line up with what you're looking for, but just keep that in mind. So first of all, ease of use. You know, as we said, it's a very complicated process. There's lots going on. It needs to be easy for someone to pick up. It also needs to be fast to set up. I've gone through several machines at this point, and I've set up a bunch of them, and sometimes it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. It gets faster every time I do it, but that means that first time is very daunting, takes a lot of effort. So something that's kind of fast and quick and easy for someone to just get going. And then also has to be able to handle mistakes, right? We are going to make mistakes. Errors are going to happen. It's going to happen all the time, and especially in 3D printing. And I kind of evaluate these recommendations based off of how easy it is to recover from those mistakes, because they're going to happen. Make your peace with that right now, you know? And then finally, safety. You know, I think it's super important to be safe with these technologies. These are hazardous materials, the resin, even isopropyl, you know, things like that you have to be careful with, and you don't want to be just sitting inhaling them, things like that. Even if it doesn't affect you today, it can affect you tomorrow, 10 years down the line. So that's really important, especially as like all these things become more accessible. It's so easy for people to do things that are unsafe and not even realize it. So I want to talk a bit about that and kind of some tips on being safe as you're venturing into 3D printing. So, yeah, this is Opa Gungan style. You guys don't like my shirt? And we are going to be talking again about resin printing today primarily. That's kind of my experience. I am looking at getting into FEP printing, which is the kind of plastic. It can be cheaper material. Can be great for big structures, terrain, things like that. I do want to get one, but I don't as yet have really any experience in that. So that's the other sort of lens that I want to mention before we dive on in. Yeah, filament printer. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Monicure is using the Jupiter. You hate the Jupiter. Oh, interesting. FEP increased the difficulty exponentially. I now have a Bambu Labs. Oh man, here, let me have some of my coffee. Sorry to get that just kind of, that's entirely fair about the shirt. All right, cool. So again, that is things to consider as we kind of dive on in and talk about these next subjects. So number one, safety. I think when you're getting started in 3D printing, it's important to reduce contact with a couple different types of materials. So first of all, it is liquid resin. Resin is weird. It is, I don't know if toxic is not, there's like a technical word for what is toxic and what's not toxic, but it's not good for you. You do not want to breathe it in, you do not want to taste it, you don't want to be around it, you don't even want to touch it really. Now, resin is very interesting because it's a material in which you could theoretically touch it and it could be fine for X amount of time, but you can suddenly develop, develop a sensitivity to it, and your body basically develops an allergy all of a sudden. And you cannot even be in the same room, in some extreme cases, even same like building vicinity, things like that. So I say that because if you touch this resin, it's not going to instantly disintegrate your skin, and you might think it's fine. It's not fine. You want to avoid it at all costs. It's just, you know, better safe than sorry. So that is a big part of these materials. Is they may not immediately feel like they're going to cause you harm, but they will over the long term. So we want to reduce your contact with liquid resin. This means like stuff in the bottle, but even when it's not fully cured, that can still have that sort of reactive property to it. And then finally, airborne chemicals. So this is breathing in the resin, and you know, pure alcohol is not exactly a great thing to be inhaling as well. So we'll talk about that because we use isopropyl or alcohol in order to clean our models, to clean our workspaces, things like that. So you really want to reduce that, and I cannot stress this enough. There's a reason I'm starting first with being safe when you're starting in 3D printing. So that is a thing I will say. Pelham says, I'd probably keep my printer in my garage. I don't want it in my house. Yes, I highly recommend that. It can be difficult with temperature changes and things like that. So if you're in a more mild climate, this is going to be easier than if you're not. And we'll talk about kind of setups to mitigate environmental factors and stuff like that. So yeah. What is the potency or percentage of your isopropyl alcohol? Great question. I try to use the like 90%, give or take. I try to get it pretty strong, honestly. It just makes the job a lot easier. There was a lot of 70% available, especially around the height of COVID, and I found that wasn't quite what I wanted. I needed something a little bit stronger. So I get that. You can get it at a hardware store. You can get it on Amazon. Some places will be cheaper than others. I think if you got something super specialized, this is one of those items that people could potentially jack up in price. So it's just isopropyl alcohol. You don't have to get anything fancy for that. So great question, appreciate it. And yeah, the resin it's a synthetic material. It's like some sort of polymer. I don't know the technical breakdown of it. There are different versions of it. There are some plant-based ones, which can potentially be a bit more ecologically friendly, but that's kind of the extent of like the exact materials that I know. How different is this printer on handling fumes and such in comparison with others? So we're talking here about the Reflex RS Turbo, which is the HeyGears printer that I've been experimenting with. And it feels better, but not substantially different. The difference is the ways in which it sort of keeps you separated from a lot of these different materials, right? So you can get the wave pulse modulator that basically like shakes up the resin for you. It can also, the machine also heats up the resin for you, so that's going to reduce the time that you have this thing open, the time that you're breathing it in. As far as actually shutting, it feels like it's relatively secure, but I would still not count on it. Assume that you are breathing something in, so don't feel like you can just put this in your living room. The resin and the machine in whatever combination, there's less smell to it than a normal printer. So that's nice, but again, we should always assume that there's chemicals coming out. So, what's up, Kit Bash Oddities? Hopefully you're doing well. Anyway, so liquid resin, things that I recommend for it, disposable latex gloves. This is a downside to 3D printing in general. There is a lot of waste, and that starts to get better over time. And if you're more experienced, this is going to reduce over time, but it is a downside, unfortunately, there's a lot of waste that you go through. So disposable latex gloves, don't reuse them. It's just not safe. So always wear those. Don't touch the resin. Don't really touch the isopropyl either. And then in conjunction with that, paper towels plus isopropyl. When you spill some resin, you cannot just simply wipe it up with like a paper towel or something. You need to actually have that isopropyl that's going to kind of break it down, allow you to scoop it up and pick it up with the paper towel. So don't think that you can just wipe it and that material is completely clean. You really need to use this isopropyl. Again, I would recommend 90 plus, and you can use the same isopropyl that you would use for your cleaning your models as you can for cleaning up this space. So highly recommend that. And finally, a separate trash. Don't use your kitchen trash, your normal trash, because uncured resin is toxic. It is not good for you. So in theory, what you need to do is you want to keep it all separate. And then when you're ready to dispose of that, what I recommend is you have like a big clear tub that you can put it in, and you basically just let it cure in the sun, let that resin just completely solidify. At that point, then you can throw it away. So this applies to any leftover resin, any little residue and spills and things like that. You want to cure them, and then you can throw them away in the regular trash. But the liquid resin is really bad, and it'll do horrible things. And under no circumstances should any of this go down your sink. It will do horrific things. So yeah, those are three very basic materials. Like you can find them any day, but they're very, very important. I found them to be very helpful. Clorox Fresh Scent Wipes to clean spilt resin. Yeah, that would work as well. Definitely. Any sort of like wipe that has some chemicals, some like alcohol in them that will help you clean up. Appreciate it. Just checking in on chat. Yeah, Michael talking about having Saturn 3 Ultra, but after replacing the screen, it's not the same as it used to be. I am having problems with every print job. Yeah, I've gone through the same problem myself. I've replaced screens to various success, honestly, and that wear and tear is always a factor over time. I've been using mine for this new machine for just about a month now, so I don't fully know the extent of the wear and tear to it, but we'll see, and I'll give you guys an update when I know for sure. So it's not what the storm drain's for. All right, next up, let's talk about, so we talked about liquid chemicals, now airborne chemicals. Filters, have filters everywhere. There's a couple different types of filters I recommend. One is having an activated carbon filter. This is for the fumes. I'll skip to the next slide real quick because I have an actual recommendation. This is what I use personally. So VivoSun is a brand that does like grow tents and grow materials and things like that. So they happen to make a lot of stuff that's great for 3D printing. So this is on the right hand a grow tent that I use, and you know, it's a big sealed thing with multiple layers. You can have your machine in there. I recommend, honestly, even just a little workspace in there. So you might want to get a couple of these or just a giant one. And they seal up nice and have a pretty good seal. It's absolutely not airtight. It's not designed to be completely 100% airtight because you're going to have some vents on the side where you can kind of put your outtake exhaust. So again, it's not going to stop everything, but it's a good way to start creating those layers between you and those chemicals. And then inside of that tent, I have this activated carbon filter, and that is going to pull it up, clean it, and then it will sort of exhaust it there. Again, so you save materials. Keep in mind, carbon filters literally use carbon, so where the point in which you exhaust, it is going to exhaust literal carbon. It's going to kind of have a little black residue, so just be aware of that when you're looking at where to vent it out to. So activated carbon filters, again, you can't use your normal everyday filters, things like that. Thanks. What's up, Chris? Thank you. How do you join the giveaway? We're going to be doing just chat interaction, say something in chat. It will in particular matter when we do the giveaway towards the end of the stream. So that'll be the main time to make sure that you're active in chat and saying something in chat. Appreciate it. So activated carbon filters recommend, and then I also recommend HEPA filters, true HEPA filters. Something that I've noticed is there's a lot of like HEPA style filters. Those aren't HEPA filters. Don't do it. So true HEPA filters, and this gets the particulates, little kind of extra little bits in the air. And for this, I'll just show you what I use. It worked fine. This is a true HEPA filter. It's half the space. I don't know. We have like 4 or 5 of them around the studio. And they have big filters that you can replace. So that's going to be for particulates in the air and things like that. So one for fumes, one for particulates, and then a hood or a grow tent is ideal. Again, I recommend all of these things. At least you have to do the carbon filter and the HEPA filter. But definitely you can't get away with like just one. You definitely can't get away with just the grow tent, things like that. And the last thing that's not on the list is, of course, a nice, good mask. When you are pouring out the resin, when you're dealing with them, obviously these other filters are not going to filter at instant speed, so you need to have some separation between you and those chemicals yet again. So these are great. You can get one that will also work for airbrushing, depending, but yeah, highly recommended. And you can look super cool when you do it too. Questions, let's see. Temperature, I mean, let's see. It's going to change a little, it's going to depend a little bit per resin, but generally like room temperature, like 70 degrees plus or minus a little bit. I don't know what that is in metric, I'm sorry. You want to avoid extremes on both ends, basically what it comes down to. You know, you don't want to go very cold or very warm. So that is the hardest part to being in like a garage space and things like that. So if you can store your longer term resins in the house, in a closet, things like that before they're opened. And then again, this is one of the kind of the nice things about some printers like this one that do actually have heating elements that will kind of heat up your resin, get it to temperature, and help it kind of react. So that is honestly a nice kind of feature here. When you're working indoor, you don't need as much, but like when you have something in a garage or somewhere that might not be temperature controlled, it's a good kind of help for that. Does humidity impact printing? Yes, I have not experienced it for similar reasons, but yes. Great question. All right. Yes, Sharon has a good point. Make sure it's one that's not a dust cartridge, which is these here, right? So these kind of filters, in theory, the HEPA filter as well. You want to make sure it's not for dust. It's for chemicals. So make sure that you have that right tool there. Perfect. So I think that's the main things for safety. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. Saving money versus splurging. I think there's a few points. There's a few things you can see the splurge list is a lot bigger here, partially because I found that it is worth getting something of higher quality for less headache. especially if you're getting started. Once you're more experienced, I think you can start to make more judgment calls about this, but I found that better safe than sorry when you get started. This is exactly the same experience I had when we were doing, when I was learning 3D, when I was learning how to airbrush, and I found it to be the exact same for 3D printing. So there's a number of things that I find like it's just better to get the higher quality thing. So again, safety, obviously, always splurge on safety. Quality printer, highly recommend. I will say the HeyGears that we're kind of discussing around here, the Reflex RS Turbo, it's not a cheap printer. It's definitely not the cheapest one on the market. You can get a cheaper one for sure. But you do get that consistency that you pay for. So if you're looking at getting started, it's a great starter printer. As you have more experience, you might want one that has higher resolution. You might want one that, again, handles things a bit differently. You might need a bigger print bed. We have a big machine here as well. And those might change over time, but when you're getting started, just getting a nice quality, consistent printer, like the Reflex RS Pro, I do actually recommend, I do. And then the full cure station, I've seen people try to get away with like little UV lamps and things like that, and personally I found it to be worth it to just get one. There's always a million of these coming out. I don't think you always have to get the newest fancy UV curing machine, but you just need one that is big enough, that has a turntable, and that is able to UV cure. Now, again, if you want to get a fancier, nicer one, the HeyGears one does also do heating as well, like baking basically, which is nice to have, but not necessary. So I would say you have some flexibility on here, but it is worth getting a type of curing machine, whatever it is, and not messing around with smaller UV devices, stuff like that. And where you can save, honestly, the wash machines. Again, if you want to make your experience nicer, you can get a wash machine. The HeyGears one is interesting. As I mentioned in the pre-recorded video, the way that it actually keeps the isopropyl totally separate and really reduces your contact with them. I like that a lot. You could also probably get away with a plastic tub and a lot of isopropyl, which is what I've used for a long time. So I think that's some general recommendations, you know. Do you need cure station or can you soap and water it? You do need a cure station. So that's a great question, Vaught. So when you print a model, they're not finished. In order to be able to kind of flex and kind of off the printer, they're not going to be 100% cured. And some resins will be more cured than others. You always need that final level of curing, which is what the cure machine is for. A big box that's going to shine UV light and it's going to get at that last 5, 10, 15%. So you need some way to finish curing the model to make it sure that it's not reactive anymore, to make sure it's nice and solid. So great question. Yeah, Dozer is saying washing station is handy, but yeah, tubs and ISO also work just fine. So if you're looking to save money as you're getting started, that's one where you can save money, and it also it doesn't impact safety as much as like making sure you have a safe printer and safe filters and all that stuff. So yeah, okay, Vaught asking cleaning station. Yeah, perfect. Cool. Excellent. I used to just put in Tupperware and put my prints in there. Yeah, exactly. I've done that for a long time, the machines are nice. They make it nice and clean and easy, but you can also kind of save some money there. Yep. How much space does all of this take up? That is another potential reason to maybe save on like the wash machine, because it does add up. I'm trying to think of like an example here. Like if we have this back shelf, it's probably like here to, so this, it's like printer, wash and cure, or wash and cure. So it's like about yay big, I'd say so. It definitely adds up, right? And the more space you have, the more clean you can keep the workspace, funny enough. You know, like having a nice space where you know, okay, this is where I'm gonna take my models off the plates, this is where I clean them, this is where they need to dry before you cure them. All those steps are better suited to having a bit more space, so. Perfect. 2x4 table, 2x4. Yeah. So again, it is kind of what you're willing to deal with essentially. And I've dealt with very little before in my previous setups. So I put mine on window still in direct sunlight. Yeah, absolutely. And this is a great thing to talk about. We mentioned it a little bit earlier, but literally these models are just curing with UV light. So you can also just cure things in the sun. If a model is not quite finished, I mean, heck, if you get a model from someone that's not fully cured, you can just put it outside and let it cure. So that's kind of a neat little thing. Cool. So those are some general tips. Here again, let's dive a bit more into the printer. At the end of the day, I actually do really recommend the Reflex RS Turbo. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think it was a good product, frankly. You know, like I found it to be very easy to use. I found it to be very easy to fix. And what I mean by that is I haven't broken the machine per se yet, but you know, errors do happen. You do get misprints, things fall in, or you know, even in setup, I was having trouble kind of leveling it and things like that, and it made it very easy to kind of get through that stuff. I really like their cleaning setting. So basically, what it does, and this is what many printers you can do, but they're not kind of as built in as this. If you have sort of a misprint, right, and at the bottom of your FEP, which is the sort of film at the bottom, you have the little bits that didn't quite fully print, right, and they're like stuck to the bottom of it. What you can do is you can hit the cleaning button, and it will basically flash for a few seconds a big chunk of resin UV light, and it'll basically cure that entire bottom layer of the machine. And what this means is rather than carefully having to pop the thing off and worry about ripping the FEP, you can just take off that entire strip, and it's nice and clean and removes it. And again, it's like one of many ways in which these are things that you can just do. And if you have experience with this, you know how to do it. I'm sure you do it already. But if you're getting started, it's nice to just have it right there and ready. So that's really nice. Yeah. What are you even on about? There's no leveling needed on the Reflex. You're just making it up. Are you just making it up? No, you do have to level a machine, my friend. You do. It has to be completely level on the desk, and so when you're setting it up, there's actually degrees of how much tilt it is in each direction. So hopefully that's helpful there. Let's see. I've been printing since top of 10th edition. It's become a #1 hobby. Replaced playing video games. I do so much. 0 buyer's remorse. Oh, that's awesome. That's great. And honestly, that's another thing I do want to bring up is 3D printing is a lot of work. Sure, you level the printer, not the plate. Yes, absolutely. This is kind of a hobby in and of itself, right? There is a lot of time and effort that can go into fine-tuning it, and maybe you're something that likes that. If you're not ready for at least some of that, don't start 3D printing. Like, it is going to be time and work and tweaking and tuning things. So keep that in mind. But again, the priorities that I'm looking at today is how do we reduce that tinkering in the early stages, get you comfortable, get you printing as soon as possible, and then we can kind of worry about, the stuff after that. So, but at the end of the day, that is going to be a thing. I personally like it. I think it's a lot of fun, but it's definitely an absolute thing you have to deal with. Perfect. Other questions? How hard is it to maintain the machine? Is it easy to clean the reservoir, replace the FEP? Great question. So I've done a bunch of replacements of the reservoir as of yet. I haven't had to do the FEP, so that one I cannot speak to. They sent me a couple. At one point I will have to do it, I'll let you know how that goes. Replacing the resin, I think it was not the easiest, I would say, because so basically I almost want to grab, because I do have that extra one. Nah, that's fine. I have basically the vat, right? And they have like this kind of trough on the right where the resin kind of pours down, and then there's this pour on the left. And to replace the whole thing, you obviously need to pour it out. And this is one of those cases where you will come in closer contact with the resin than any other place on the machine. There wasn't a way to kind of get around that. And the spout, I don't know, was very kind of big and flat. And so I'm used to one that has a much tighter, smaller spout that can kind of pour nicely into a funnel or a bottle or whatever it might be. So that was a place where I was like, this doesn't feel, it didn't feel like the same level of kind of premium as a lot of the rest of the product was. So I think, it was fine, but it wasn't anything spectacular. So hopefully that's helpful, Johnny. Appreciate it. All right. Yeah, we mentioned a lot of this, easy to fix, safe. For a lot of these reasons I kind of mentioned in the previous video. So again, that video is more about this printer specifically, so you can definitely check it out. And it's been good results. I do have some stuff here, which I printed. I mentioned in the video a lot of our stuff we've been working on was actually on a project that we can't actually discuss yet. So I've just been printing little doodads and trinkets and things like that to kind of show off. I found it to be nice, high quality. Been very happy with it. This is their normal resin. So they're like high detail resin at 30 microns. So typically it's like 50 is standard, 30 will be kind of higher resolution, which makes it, I think it's a 4K, not an 8K, because 8K takes you to the 0.2 microns or 20 microns. But don't quote me on that. So I've been quite happy with the quality of the actual prints, I will say. And as I mentioned in the video, the main thing is working with the supports in the software, which I found to be quite aggressive with their connection points where they put these spheres. So that was, to be honest, the biggest difficulty there was learning how to not have those be super invasive. These are some lances that I modeled, and this is done in their flexible resin. So it's pretty dang flexible. You can see this would normally have snapped long ago, and the rebound, I guess, is pretty decent. It might take a little time, but it's nice that they don't just immediately snap. So I found it's more flexible. Flex resin is often just basically tough resin rather than flex resin, right? It's not meant to you're not really meant to do this. It's just saying if you drop it, it will not break as easily. So that's actually pretty nice. It was more susceptible to those supports issues that I was mentioning earlier. So again, things to keep in mind. Honest review. I have printed basing for Mel's Sylvaneth, so I'll let you know how that works because she needs that. Let's see. Does it come with different nozzle head sizes? What size do you recommend for the things that you printed? Nozzle sizes. Nozzle sizes. Oh yeah. This is resin, so no nozzles, so you don't have to worry about that. Yeah, I was just talking about the actual resin vat when you pour it out. So it's just like when you're trying to change it for example, swapping between the flexible resin and the normal resin, you don't want to cross-contaminate them unless you're intentionally doing a mix. So yeah. So yeah. Cool. I mix ABS-like resin and standard together for durable print. Yeah, exactly. That's absolutely a thing that you can do, again, once you're more experienced. So yeah, just a bit of examples of how it looks. Been pretty happy with the quality. So awesome. With that, let's move on by. Welcome in everybody for just joining in now. We're talking about getting started in 3D printing, recommendations, pitfalls that I've found, and we are going to be doing a giveaway of a printer at the end of the stream. So definitely hang in till then, and we'll be doing it. It'll be a great time. So let's talk about, I think, one of the biggest things about this product that I think I see people talking about always. I saw that before I got this printer. Obviously, I saw it afterwards once people said, "Oh my, this thing." The HeyGears stuff does want you to use their resin and their slicing software. The resin bottles are different. You kind of slot them in. That's covered more in that video, so I go to that video for that information. But they really want you to use their resin. So there's not really swapping out to other resins and things like that. Is this a negative? Totally, absolutely. If you're an experienced printer and you want to have your specific mix and your specific brand and things like that, then you're not going to be able to do that. But again, that's why I think this is a great beginner printer, because it's a great way to get started when you just need something to just work. As any 3D printer will also tell you, different settings required for different types of resin on different printers and different yada yada. It always is changing based off of what you need to do, right? And so the only way to have the greatest level of consistency is to know exactly what resin is being used and with exactly what software to sort of enable that. So that's the trade-off. You get that great consistency. I have found you can virtually drag and drop a model, have it support it, and it will just print. And that's awesome for getting started. The downside, of course, is you are locked into their resins. And they're not the cheapest. So yeah, absolutely, that's a factor. The software side of things, it's the slicing part you can't use across purposes. So for example, Lychee or Chitubox are two very popular support softwares that you can use to actually create the supports that will hold your models up while they're being printed. If you prefer to use that, you can totally create the supports there, and then you bring in the supported model into HeyGears software, which is called Blueprint. But you do need Blueprint to actually do the slices, as far as I know. So the software is less limited in my mind. I generally try to slice. I try to use the slicer software that's meant for the hardware that I'm using, right? So even on my Anycubic machines, I do supports in Lychee. I bring them into the Photon workshop, which I don't love, but I use it to do the final slicing because I just feel more comfortable with them kind of talking to each other. So that is really the big kind of trade-off there here in this machine. And I want you to know, for sure. Price for the resin, it's like $50 a bottle. So it's definitely more expensive. Like I think I get my Anycubics for like $35 on Amazon, depending on the type. So it's definitely more expensive for sure. The bottle size is the same, but something to kind of think about. T says, regarding the flexible resin, if you measure it in melt interactions, how much do you say does it grade? I think it's gonna do really well, honestly. I'm really excited. I'm having trouble like even printing anything not in a flex or tough resin because honestly, I think why not, right? Like these things break, and when resin shatters, when resin breaks, it breaks kind of nasty. So, and I'm optimistic about it. We'll see. So we will find out soon. Elegoo Saturn V2 is 20. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, at that super high resolution, it's a different machine. Absolutely. Miguel says, I really want to get into it, but I'm afraid it'll become a hobby beside the hobby. Yes, that is unavoidable. These tips and tricks today will help you reduce that, but it's something to kind of keep in mind. So yeah, anyways, that is a bit about the lock-in, which people talk about. I kind of just went into these points already. You can support with other things. You can use Blueprint for other machines. Perfect. Okay. I kind of want to go through some general, like I just want to kind of vomit some knowledge. Issues I've run into, things that I wish people had told me when I got started, things that I discovered later on. So I'm going to kind of go through those. They're more general. If anyone has questions right now, it's absolutely a good time. So yeah, you can refill the HeyGears bottles if you find a good comparable cheaper resin. Yeah, that's probably true, honestly. That's probably very true. So, all right. Let's take a look. When I'm printing just boys, I can print dozens and dozens. Yep. Perfect. Yeah, you can absolutely just pour the resin. You don't need the bottle, for sure. Yeah. Why can you, Lindsay, you're really taking a lot of issue here. Interesting. You can absolutely, you can do that, but I'm just saying this is a concern that a lot of people have about this type of printer is they really want you to use this resin. The bottles make it not easy to swap out any other things. So, you know what, if you're gonna have issues, you can take it elsewhere, but we're just having a good discussion here. All right, would filament printers be safer in an apartment environment compared to resin printers? Maybe Chad can speak to that a bit more. My understanding is yes, but to be honest, I've never actually used it. So, yeah, let me know. And yeah, print time is up, not out. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, no worries, Lindsay. I appreciate it. Yeah. Cool. So keep the questions coming, folks. Let's dive on in and talk about just like general stuff. So this thing's reset. Let's go to just lots of things that I wish that people knew about. And we're going to kind of start from one topic and go to the next. So let's see, tips and tricks. Start with known variables. This is, again, kind of at the core of this approach. This is the same approach that I have for 3D printing as it is for airbrushing. Start with things that just work. So when you can, you want to use matchy everything. You want to use again, the proper resin, the proper supports, all those things, and just start getting that to work and then work your way back, essentially. When you're doing 3D printing, as with any sort of debugging, change one thing, try it. Change another thing, try it. I think that's super, super important. It's tempting to be like, oh, it was this or this or this, and then change all three, and you don't know which one fixed it. So I think that's important. Then the kind of some more things regarding supports. When you're supporting models, we could do a whole episode on how to support models, and frankly, I have lots to learn still. But a few things that were not obvious when I first started. You generally want to support models on an angle, which means you don't want to have them just supported straight. You want to have them like this. Because at the end of the day, what these machines are doing, both FDM and resin printers, is they're printing in layers, right? Just straight down, straight down, straight down, straight down. And they're basically like very, very thin layers of, even like you can think of them as Legos in a sense, right? So when you have it top to bottom and you have something like a curved surface, what you're gonna end up with, even with high resolution, is a little bit of a staircase, right? And that's where you see what people call print lines. So when possible, you want to put things at an angle, that's going to actually reduce the print lines, the staircases that you get, things like that. There's a lot more nuance to that, but that's just like at a high level. Don't just print things straight on. It's also going to help them print nicer, because then when they're at an angle, they can have lots of supports and things like that. So that's important. Another one which might seem obvious if you've been printing: remove supports before you cure. So you print your model, you get it out of the machine, you wash it in the isopropyl, you take off the supports, and then you cure it. I've encountered many people, I've probably even myself when I first started, who printed it, cured it, and then tried to take the supports off. It'll be difficult to take off the supports, and it will also damage the model. So again, something that is like obvious once you've done it, but when you're first getting started, that's a thing. So yeah, exactly, the arctan angles. The angles are going to be super important in deciding like how sharp you want to have it. So I think that's super important. And Espilord is bringing a great point, which we'll talk about shortly. And then creating V's when you're supporting. Again, thinking about these things print in layers, right? And they're you're building this device as you go. It's important to have, like, V's are just very strong, because one, they're going to have the angle that we talked about. It's easier to kind of create supports around them. There's just a number of reasons that if you have a model and you can see sort of like a V formation, you want to kind of angle it in that direction. I should say it's like a V or an upside down V, but again, it comes down to those angles. So again, don't print things head on. It is rarely the answer. Then avoid high interest areas when you're doing supports. So if you're doing like an auto support, it's just gonna kind of spit out a bunch of stuff. HeyGears will do this as well. It's a very like brute force method where it's like, here's 1,000 supports and it will print. But I even encountered this yesterday. You want to be careful when you're working around the face or the chest or like any kind of exposed part of the model. You, if possible, want to have less supports than more supports. So I will try to support the bottom of the model, the back of the model, things like that. And if you are going to have supports on the face, try to have it on places that are least likely to do damage. So what I had yesterday was I had a model where I had missed there's a support right here in the eye, and it created this little bump that was a pain to remove. So avoid those high interest areas when you can. And to the point SB Lloyd was talking about, verticality determines the print time, right? This thing needs to print. So the thing that's going to determine how long your print takes is the tallest item that you are printing. If I have this spear printing and this like shrubbery printing, they're going to both be on the same device. So obviously the device is going to finish printing this one, but way before it finishes printing this one. So what I tend to do is, as long as it's not going to create like a bunch of pull, I try to have them all match, because frankly, I should just do a bunch of these at this height, and I could probably do 2 of these prints in the time it takes me to do 1. So think about that. And another nice thing you can do with your build plates is you can sort of fill them up with extra little doodads and knickknacks, because it's not going to add any extra time, right? And adding a cross is not going to add. It's only when you add things that are taller that you add. Yeah. Where would it be a good place to start learning the software? YouTube University. Yeah, YouTube is my #1 resource. I haven't found a ton of resources for the new HeyGears stuff, honestly, partially because it's new, so that has been a little bit tougher to find, if I'm being perfectly honest. But yeah, generally I do everything on YouTube, and there's people who will help you avoid those pitfalls as well. So yeah, Lychee has a channel. Nice. Do you like the Lychee channel? Is it good? Yeah, let me know. Understanding islands. So let's see. I wish I had a good thing for this. Again, things are printing linearly. So if you have like a hook and you're printing, this is going to print, right? When you get to all these points are kind of connected. So if you had this, like, let's say flatten the build plate, which you shouldn't do, it'll always be connected. So you're just like adding a layer, adding a layer, adding a layer, adding a layer. However, once you get to this, it's going to, okay, add this little bit. But this isn't attached to anything, right? So if there's no supports, it will just kind of float away or cause other issues. Actually, it'll probably kind of adhere to the bottom of the machine and then kind of balloon out. So you get this whole thing as like a flattened image, just kind of like just smashed right here. And so this is what we would call an island. It's unsupported. And just understanding that concept, like that's the basics of it. Welcome to the journey of islands. What you do to solve that, of course, is you have supports that come up to here, and then you could, of course, connect it to the main line or whatever. Again, a lot of the software will support this initially, and you'll learn how to kind of tweak it as you get going. So yeah, islands are not a problem on HeyGears. Yeah, no, I've had no problems, which has been fantastic. Again, I really do like the auto support software here. It's while it can be brute method at times, I found it to be very helpful. All right, let's see. Different settings for materials. This is a pretty simple one, but again, if you don't know, then you don't know. You'll need different settings. So again, this flex resin is going to have different settings than this regular resin. Many machines will handle that. HeyGears will certainly handle that because you pick the resin when you do the supports, and it'll bake that all into the profile. So another reason I kind of like this machine for getting started. And the ways in which you tweak the minutia of this is part of the art form. And so again, when you're just getting started, keep it simple. Yeah. How well does the slicer handle hollowing? It's okay. I wasn't like blown away by it. I think I still like the hollowing on the Lychee software better. But I wasn't like, oh, this is bad. So yeah, I think it's like totally fine, you know. All right, let's see. Beware of suction. This is one that it's like it'll like creep up on you when you realize that you've created this big plate with a lot of big flat surfaces. Again, remember that when you're printing this, it's all printing one layer at a time. So if you have a ton of really flat surfaces, all kind of together on the same build plate, that will over time create lots and lots and lots of force that's going to kind of pull against it, and that can pull it off of the build plate. I have not encountered this yet in the HeyGears, but it is just a problem in general. So beware of those things that kind of create that big suction force. Again, reasons why we want to not have things flat or vertical. You want to have them at an angle to help kind of reduce that. That's the thing. I talked about the curing to clean already with curing the bottom. Drying before you cure. You want to have your models be dry before you cure. I don't think it has a huge effect, but it can have an effect if you have like a layer between the UV and the model. And what I have noticed is if it is a little bit damp, it'll also create little glossy layers on it, and it just looks kind of weird and wonky. And then you're not entirely sure if it's actually cured or if it's just was wet when it cured. So make sure you dry your models if you can. And you can overcure models. Curing models is basically baking them, finishing to solidify them, and if you do this too much, they can become extremely brittle. Even this like tough resin, it will become very brittle if you overcure it. So do your research. HeyGears obviously handles the time on that. You can basically just have it go from one machine to the next and just kind of import the right settings, but know that you can overcure them. That's a big thing. And then finally, just the last point, you want to isopropyl and wipe off everything constantly all the time. So a little bit of isopropyl, little paper towel, wipe it off, clean it, make sure to dispose of those well. It's just going to make your life a lot easier. And this is where a lot of the wear and tear on your machine and on your workspace starts to add up. And I've certainly been guilty of it in the past. So that's just a general tip. Yeah, don't overcook it. Exactly. So, curing temperature. Oh, interesting. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, you don't want to. This is something to keep in mind if you're someone that like leaves your models out in the sun. Don't just leave them out there forever, because that will be a problem. So, awesome. I think those are the topics I want to talk about today. We're going to go into questions, and we will do the giveaway very soon. The way you can do the giveaway is just by saying something in chat. I'm going to start up Nightbot and get this going. And basically just saying something, you know, saying hi, letting them know what you think. What do you print? Do you not print? If you're not interested in 3D print, honestly, let me know. I'm curious. We've had a lot of curiosity for folks on the channel here. We use it for, you know, models that are hard to get, or like cool conversions, or there's a million alternate sculpts out there, so it's pretty awesome. So let me set this up. Let's see. Boom, boom. I love it. I see it all coming in. Love it. Do y'all prefer FDM or resin? It's slightly different goals for different. Oh, geez, come on. The different materials are good for different things, right? So I like working with resin. I know resin. I obviously haven't really worked with FDM, but resin is more expensive. It is heavier, and FDM can do big, large plates lighter and more cheaply. It's just generally not the same resolution. Now, there are some pretty fantastic FDM printers out there. I know our buddy Colonel Festus has a really nice one he's been doing some good terrain on. So that gap is closing, but generally that's kind of the two big distinctions between the two. So I like resin. I love resin. I like working with resin. But again, I want to get an FDM printer for terrain here at the studio. So that's the big difference there. Yep, exactly. FDM for lots of objects, big things. We have our Votan here, terrain here is printed on FDM. It's pretty great. Resin is toxic. How do you deal with that? Great question, Michigan. Again, we talked mostly about the safety at the start of the stream, but largely it comes down to wear gloves, don't touch the materials, have proper masks and filters, a activated carbon filter, a true HEPA filter, and then again, some separation from the rest of your space, basically. So ideally in a garage, have it in a grow tent. Any other extra separation is going to be critical. And then when you're getting rid of your resin, make sure it's cured. What I do is I have a big tub and I put it in the sun and I let it cure, and then I can throw it away. And I do this also for my like dirty isopropyl. At a certain point, you will need to replace the isopropyl that you have, though less often with HeyGears. And I basically put that in the sun, the isopropyl evaporates, the resin cures, and you can throw that away properly and ethically. So, yeah. 4 full armies with a lot of accessories for modification. That's awesome. Don't drink any of this. Big D saying FDM generally has no fume issues until you get to exotic material. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, protect your pets. Absolutely, yeah. Remember, your pets and kids can't advocate for themselves, so make sure that you set up a nice and safe space. What's up, P. Lacey? No worries. Thanks for tuning in just now. Get a bamboo printer. Yeah, I do still want to try like a super high resolution printer. That's like, first I want to get FDM, and then maybe like an 8K printer or so. That'll be awesome. Fantastic. Loving seeing all these come filtering in. Again, hopefully this is helpful. Let me know in the comments, and definitely check out the other video if you're interested. It gives you kind of more of a breakdown on that printer specifically and my experience with it. So overall, I do really like the machine. I do recommend it, especially if you're a beginner. It just makes things nice and easy. I have a lot of experience, and we have a big machine, but I'm still using this machine for a lot of our like more sensitive prints, frankly, because it's just so gosh darn consistency. Resolution. Oh, I wanted to look that up. I don't know on the top of my head, to be honest. I wish I really should. I really should. But I've been able to do 30 microns. Yep. What's up, Monikir? Hey. Does Titan have STLs that they share, or the Votan terrain is awesome? So the Votan terrain is from Sacris Mundus, which you can find on My Mini Factory. And if you don't have access to printer, Wargame Portal also produces them themselves. So those aren't our STLs. I think we have like a My Mini Factory account with our little Christmas ornament from a few years back that Brett made, but that's about it. Yeah, let me know if you're interested in the future. We're definitely enjoying it. Has to be 8K? It is 8K. Okay, cool. Awesome. All right, folks, we are going to be going ahead and doing the giveaway. Get ready. Let's go. We're going to be doing this in 3, 2, 1. The winner is Devlin Perez. Make sure to claim your prize. We'll have to re-roll a new one. We got in the chat, Devlin Perez. Let me see if we can at you. Devlin, hey. Amazing, amazing. Congrats, Devlin. Awesome. So Devlin, what I would like you to do is go ahead and email us at tabletoptitanssocial@gmail.com. And then what I'll do is I will send you a confirmation code, and you'll post that in the comments here, just to make sure that there's not some other random person pretending to be you, Devlin. So, and then we'll get you set up, and we'll get you the printer from HeyGears. So big thanks to them for, of course, giving that away, letting us do this. It's a nice little bonus. You know, there's only so much you can fit in a pre-recorded, 10-minute video. It's nice to kind of take an hour and talk through some more thoughts and get some general tips. So I really hope that's helpful. With that, what's today? Wednesday. We've got our next stream tomorrow. We'll be doing list review for the members in the morning, and then in the afternoon we'll be playing with the new orcs, which I'm very excited about, facing off against the Titan Watch, which I'm very terrified of. That's our community created one. So I really want to thank everyone for being a part of the stream. It's Tuesday. Oh my God, it's Tuesday today. Oh God. It's members night. It's members night tonight. So it's going to be world leaders and custodies. Oh man, we're good. And we're going right into doing a pre-recorded after this. So hopefully everyone had a great day. Very much appreciate it. I'll catch y'all next time on the tabletop. Bye.